to Junior Mining Weekly, StockPulse.com production, where our focus is on the individual equities markets within the commodity sector. Joining me is Allan Laboucan of the Allan Reports to put some color to the news and the atmosphere. Okay, Al, gold hanging tough above 1,700. Seems like the equity news is picking up a bit. Some drill programs getting announced. Charts being repaired. Good ones actually have a nice solid V, but that's just to get back to their pre-COVID-19 levels. With gold stable, some of these companies were steals before this market interruption. How you seeing the action this week?
I think that I don't think the market, even though we're over $1,700 an ounce, I don't think the general market or the overall market really understands where gold is going. And sometimes I can understand when markets don't understand certain things, but it's like the red lights are flashing all over the place right now when it comes to, or the green lights, I guess. Bright green lights are flashing for gold. You don't pick up a newspaper, turn on a business television channel, watch what they're talking about. The debt's going, now we're over $25 trillion in debt. That's the government. And that was when Trump came in, 20 trillion. So they've cranked up 5 trillion. They can't, the interest rate lowering is not supporting the economy. Now we got all this COVID stuff. This is going to be years worth of quantitative easing that drives gold, much higher. I think $2,000 this year is easy, and $2,000 to $3,000 next year is in the cards. And in that kind of environment, you're going to start to see more of generalists and bigger crowd coming into the mining stocks. And this is even a bigger point that people aren't getting what's happening with gold. You look at the quality of the juniors out there, and this is the most crucial thing that the business needs right now is more exploration, this success. And if you look at the companies out there that are not, what do they call those, lifestyle companies, you look at those that aren't heavily diluted, well past 150, 200 million shares. And so you knock out all those, which knocks out 95% of the companies in the junior space, and then you've got a small menu of real serious exploration. So I think there's a big crowd coming, and as they come in, they don't have a very big menu to choose from, and that's why I think right now it's incumbent on investors that want to be ahead of that crowd to be looking at finding those quality stories that are trading at, without heavily diluted stocks or lifestyle-ish kind of companies, and that are busy with the drill rig. That's really what you want to focus on these days.
Okay, well, that's what this podcast is all about, so let's get to the first one here. GoldON Resources, as they expand their Pipestone Bay property in Red Lake Gold Camp and completes an airborne mag survey right next to Great Bear here. Why don't you run through why you like this one?
Yeah, they've kept this stock pretty tight, and these are the guy who brought the Great Bear story to Great Bear. He's heavily involved with this company. He's been bringing some of his projects into GoldON, and I think that they're about to start drilling in near Great Bear again. And that's pretty exciting. I'm watching that one. That one could catch a lot of attention, especially because it's not a lot of stock out. Really, of all their other stuff, the Red Lake stuff is what is got my attention. And if you look at the stock chart, it bottomed with the rest of the juniors and has firmed up quite nicely. Now it's kind of been going sideways, and I think we've got a from late April till now, for the last couple of weeks, kind of been going sideways at around that 60-cent range. So I think that we're at a sort of an inflection point, and the next fundamental news is the drilling. And if they catch something good, I think with the little amount of stock they have out, and this marquee play right beside them, it could get pretty exciting.
Okay, next one up here, one we haven't talked about before, Goldcliff Resources. Some drilling discovers potential bulk tonnage target, the Nevada Rand. Land position expanded here. Would you run through why you like this one, Al?
Yeah, this one caught my attention for a couple of reasons. One, I'm a big fan of Nevada. Companies have success there, and they always trade at a much higher valuation than if they have success anywhere else. I call it the Nevada premium, and so I've always got my eyes open for the Nevada premium kind of stories. And GCN had some news out that they reviewed their drilling, and a couple shows ago, I think I mentioned to you that investors are going to have to, because there's such a small menu of good stories out there, that investors are going to have to become more adept at sharpen their exploration analysis and their pencil, if you will. And what I mean by that is kind of this company. It's not your blockbuster kind of grades at the surface just yet, but they've got a lot of potential, and I like their chances to hit something that gets exciting. But investors have to start looking earlier into things, and they have to start looking at it, earlier and more intelligently. Not all projects are going to be high grade, and neither are they going to be low grade. But either of those kind of projects, if quality, can make a mine. That's what mines are made of: high grade and low grade mines. I like what they're doing, and I like what I see as far as them giving an update. Even if an investor that wants into the space isn't that knowledgeable about exploration, you can still learn a lot about a company. Just read their news release, and you'll understand that this company knows what they're doing. They explain things in a way that many people can understand, and that's really what you want out of your companies, because they know what they're doing. So, yeah, GCN's a new one, 41 million shares out, getting ready to crank up the drills and do more work in Nevada. Candidate for the Nevada premium. Definitely one investor should keep an eye on.
Okay, next one up here, Discovery Metals. Some really nice drill results. Not really the typical, Al. A lot of shares out here, but a lot of money in the bank as well.
Yeah, 168 meters at 200 grams gold is looking pretty good to me these days. And that's what they just announced. But I also so let's go over it first. It's in Mexico, lots of good geology in Mexico, underexplored. They're looking for something big. 168 meters at 200 grams of silver suggests that they are onto something big. Of course, this was from only 1,250 meters from 2 holes. So, getting off to things good is that's a good start. 16 holes are pending. They did a bigger program of 48 holes, but the ones they reported the other day were 2 holes. So they got a lot of news pending. Keep an eye on them. But I also brought them up for another reason. I harp a lot on how much stock a company has out. And I believe you have to have a good share structure in order to have a good success with an exploration company. It just takes a lot of the risk, a lot of the volatility out of it. And this company has 211 million shares, which is getting up there. It's sort of past my comfort level, if you will, where I feel like, okay, they find something like this is a slam dunk. But in this case, and you always got to look at things, individually. They got $23 million in cash. As you said, they're trading for about their cash value, and you're getting no value for what they have in the ground. So, there's some rules of thumb. And I think my structure is more than a rule of thumb. But sometimes you have to look for, what makes this one different? Yeah, they got 220 million shares up, but they got 23 million in the bank. So, they can do a hell of a lot of drilling for $23 million and not have to go back to the market. So, yeah, always, take things and look at them closely, because sometimes you want to maybe break some of those rules of thumb.
Okay, last one up on the list here. We've got Freegold. Some really nice numbers here at Golden Summit in Alaska. Again, a lot of stock out here, but talk about why this one hit the mark.
Freegold, I guess I could put that into the same category too, with a they got a lot of stock out, 220 million shares, but they also hit 188 meters of 3.69 grams per ton gold, which also included 2 meters of 169 grams per ton gold. So you're looking at some pretty exciting numbers there that with those kind of numbers can probably overcome this broken share structure issue. They announced today that they're doing a $5 million placement. My guess is that will be done pretty quickly. I think Eric Sprott's putting in 2 million of it, and other people. But these kind of share structures also create opportunities for investors. So watch your timing. I probably wouldn't chase after something like this, but you look for dips and things like this, and and then look for when their next catalysts are coming up. And if you can get one on a dip as a catalyst of coming up, that's the way you want to play these kind of things. And Freegold's definitely caught a lot of people's attention of late. Just the other day, before these results went out, I think they were trading at about 8 cents a share. And today they are trading at 33 cents a share. And again, I think that placement will get wrapped up pretty quickly because I think it's at 17 cents or something like that. So the higher the stock goes, they don't really want to have it hanging out there for too long. So you'll see that wrapped up pretty quickly.
Well, thanks for that breakdown. I'll appreciate that. Let's talk for a minute about knowing your audience. Came across a couple articles late last week that were a bit surprising to me. Seems that millennials are far more into precious metals than I suspected. You don't really see a concerted effort, certainly in the digital arena, from these equities, to market to them.
It will. When gold gets stronger, it brings more people in, and I think that you're right, that you kind of hit the nail on the head as you were asking the question. There's a lot of companies out there that don't do very good marketing, and kind of the litmus of that is the same thing the same tools that you would need to attract the millennials. They're not using. Millennials love podcasts, they love video shows, and to be explained what you're working on and be brought into the project somewhat, because the company is trying to tell the story so everybody can understand it. That's another problem, kind of a lot of these companies that even are the good ones, quality explorers, it's like they write their news releases just for their buddies that are geologists in the business, and they don't really try to explain it for the millennials. And they'll do that to their own peril, because I've seen it in my own career in the business. When I first started in the business, I was 29 years old. That was in 1993. Since then, at that time, there had been a long period of what they called the lost generation, and now those people that were in there before the lost generation, they're either retired or dying, and the same thing's going to happen with those older investors. They're going to invest less. They're going to look after their health more, and you need to be talking to those younger investors. And I think in the industry underestimates how interested. You sent me an article about Schiff Gold. Peter Schiff, they're talking about, hey, you'd be surprised how many millennials are interested in this business, but they're mainly interested in because of on the gold side of it. Well, if more exploration companies were able to be more effective using the right tools at explaining the treasure hunting aspect of what we do. Look at all these movies that are made about, treasure hunting. Look at the games that are out there that are made. What's that one that is very popular with younger kids? It's got a lot about mining in it. And I just don't see a lot trying to explain it and trying to use the tools. And, StockPulse has some great is using those tools in a great way with the shows and everything like that. And it's shocking to me that companies are kind of pulling back when they should be learning. They could be learning right now while things are kind of slow, and learning how to use those tools more effectively, so that when the bigger crowds start coming in, they're more effective at using those tools. Because right now there's another problem. I think a lot of them don't use those tools because they're not very effective at it. So or they're nervous, and you just don't need to be. It's like talking to your buddy about your company. It's one-on-one, and so yeah, those are the tools they should be using more. They should be using, trying to tell their stories in a way that will excite and this is an exciting business. That's why I got into it. You roll the dice, you put a hole in the ground, and you could find the next mine that drives that company that's currently trading at a few $1 million into a couple $1 billion company. You just don't get those chances very often. It's called treasure hunting for a reason. And I think that more companies need to look at those kind of things, how they tell their story and the tools they use.
A point to make. One thing I notice is with this lack of news flows, that's when these companies should really be aggressively reaching out and create their own news.
Absolutely.
You reach out to these investors with updates, highlighting their assets, not tucking tail and waiting for the tide to lift all boats, as I think we've discussed and agree that might never happen for some. So one thing he said to me a while ago that stuck is investors are in this sector for the romance of it, to hit the big one. I don't see many romance novels being written.
They're not. And they're not in a book that people want to pick up off the shelf. This is a tremendously exciting business. I love the prospect of putting a hole in the ground and finding a mine. You just don't do that in any other thing. And so if you get good at finding those that can do that, you can, look at some of these guys that are now billionaires. They did it all in mining.
To your point of the tools, I'll take this time to plug and introduce a newly launched drill grid on the StockPulse.com. This is our contribution to the romance novel, if you will. Free for all these companies to add their drill programs and particulars. This should serve and be a powerful tool for these investors to have all these programs in one place. They can track the activity and success of their respective campaigns they might be investing in or certainly following.
Well, I'm probably one of your bigger users of the StockPulse website, and some of the tools that I love that grid for drilling. Over the years, I've always been really up on research, so I'm looking at things all the time and looking at news releases to try to find the right ones. And I go all over the place. Well, the news grid on StockPulse has made it so that I don't have to do that anymore. I can go to one site, I can get my work done on the research. Well, filtering through the ones I want to do more research in about an hour each day. So, you're really building something there, Rob, that I think that for me as an investor, researcher, reporter, it's made my life a lot easier, and I think it'll make investors in the space lives a lot easier. And for the companies that want to get out there to that kind of an audience, that's the kind of companies they want to get in front of. That's the kind of investors they want to get in front of. And going back to your millennial question, guess who's using a site like yours?
Just a little asterisk here. We're working on the mobile side, folks, so give us about another week and a half. The mobile side will be real tidy, but it's a brand new framework. It's very fast, and again, to your point, filtering the market to do this research is really important.
And we do that for them as well in the video section of where we do the shows, and we kind of teach people how to do their research and what to look for and filter through all those companies. So we're really providing quite a tremendous platform for the investors in this space, and I think we want to be getting the word out there to more people for sure.
Okay, that's it for this week's show. If you're a fan of the information, please subscribe to the channel, share the broadcast. If you haven't already, please have a look at the StockPulse platform, where we're tracking the pulse of the financial equities markets, providing investors with tools, filters, features, and analysis to navigate these markets and assist in their investment decision. We're about a week away from being 100% mobile friendly, so keep your eye out for that update. And back next week, more equity news and commentary that hopefully gets you ahead in your portfolio.